episode. Happy Father's Day to all of you, and happy Inside Out 2 weekend. We're getting going here. Coming up, my thoughts on Inside Out 2's $155 million opening weekend. That is humongous for animation, humongous for Pixar, Disney. Look, Inside Out 2 made exactly what Elemental made its entire run last summer, but let's not diminish what Elemental was. Elemental was an excellent animated film that benefited from strong word of mouth. In the case of Inside Out 2, this is a movie that people wanted to see right away. Tons of people wanted to see right away because of the love of the original from 2015. Lots of people love Inside Out, the first one, which won an Oscar. Many people thought should have been up for Best Picture of the Year, won the Animated Feature Oscar, and now the buzz will already start for this sequel, which has huge audience scores and lots of critical praise as well. I think Inside Out 2, which earned $155 million this weekend, one of the biggest opens ever for an animated movie, is one of those movies that maybe people go see a couple times, but you got Despicable Me 4 just 3 weeks from now, which could do basically the same numbers as this. So we will see what happens. But Inside Out 2, I think animation people are thrilled. Look, the fourth animated movie in a 2-year period to have more than $100 million for its opening weekend. I went low last week with my predictions and my thoughts what was going to happen with Inside Out 2. I was thinking 70 to 75. I was way too low. And you know what? I'm okay admitting that. Because when the box office is this good, you want to be pleasantly surprised. You want to be thrilled. You want to be happy. And that's exactly what we get here with Inside Out 2. It's so great that families still love the theatrical experience. It's all about the theatrical experience. Everyone who said theaters are dead, it's terrible when COVID happened. You know what? The theaters are alive and well. The drive-ins are alive and well. Imagine all the drive-ins around the country, and there's only 286 left, which is terrible. There should be many, many more. I hope theater owners think about opening new drive-ins around the country. That would be awesome. All the drive-ins around the country probably kicked butt this weekend. The indoor theaters probably did extremely well this weekend, and they will continue to as more kids get out of school for the summer and families need something to do. Inside Out 2 is a relatively short movie. It's only 96 minutes long. And so theater owners could squeeze in 5, maybe 6 showtimes per day per screen. That's just cash, baby. That is cash for the Mouse House, which needed a hit. The Mouse House truly hasn't had a movie open this year. Yeah, Young Woman in the Sea had a little theatrical run. Yeah, you have the 20th Century division of Disney with The First Omen and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but a true Walt Disney Pictures movie has not come out really since last November with Wish, which bombed. The Marvels from Disney's Marvel division bombed. And now you're looking at Deadpool and Wolverine, that's going to do extremely well. Inside Out 2 doing really well. And Despicable Me 4 for Universal Illumination. I posted on Twitter X at LCJ Reviews. What do you think is going to be the billion-dollar movie of the summer, or really the highest grossing movie of the summer worldwide? All 3 of these movies have a shot at $1 billion. What's going to be the top earner? And right now the poll is really close. I think Deadpool Wolverine is winning, but that poll is extremely close because all 3 movies have a chance at $1 billion and a chance of being number 1 when the summer is done. But for now, we're looking at Inside Out 2 with $155 million. And as I posted recently, Barbie had a $155 million estimate. Its actual result went up to 162. So when the actual results are released tomorrow, you could see this climb to $165 million. Disney could be underselling this right now. Wow. Massive, massive, which is awesome for animation. Animation is one of the powerhouses of cinema. It has always been. It will continue to be. When you've got Pixar and Disney and Illumination and Sony and DreamWorks and all the other anime studios. Boy and the Heron was a #1 movie at the weekend box office last December. You have smaller studios. You have the Garfield movie, which is Sony, not their Sony Pictures Animation division, but a Sony release. All these animation studios, the smaller ones that sneak in like G-Kids, and you've got Aardman, you've got even Netflix releases some of their animated films in theaters for a week or 2 to qualify. So many animation studios. Warner Brothers getting back in the animation game in full force with their new animation division, kind of revamped. The studios love animation, and it continues to be one of the powerhouses. Kung Fu Panda 4, one of the biggest movies of the year so far, with $194 million. This already at 155. And the Garfield movie added $5 million. Frankly, the fact that the Garfield movie still made $5 million this weekend, it tells you the power of animation. It could have gone down to $2 million with everybody going to Inside Out 2, but it still made $5 million this weekend. It's at 78.5. If made another 3.5 million, it crossed 100 million for Paramount. It's at 100.9. That's animation with some live action. Yeah, Paramount and Nickelodeon have a huge animation brand as well for theaters. So yeah, animation is thriving. So is Bad Boys Ride or Die, which added $33 million. What is it that excites you about box office numbers, says Robbie? I've been following this stuff since 2006. Shortly after I got in the film critic game. And what's exciting about the box office is that it's hot, it's relevant every single week. Every Sunday you get the numbers, they come in. It's news. The importance of this top 10 list is to show what's still playing in theaters, what's still making money, what's slowly starting but maybe building, like an Elemental last summer. It keeps you in the game. A lot of these streaming movies, they get on a streaming service and then 4 days later, you forget about them and you move on to the next one that comes and goes. This list and the importance of keeping these movies alive and in the news and in the conversation keeps the theaters going, keeps the movie fans going, keeps your interest in what's happening. So that's part of it. There's even more layers to that, but that's part of it. Bad Boys Ride or Die added $33 million this weekend. It's at 112.2. It is about to pass the Ghostbusters movie, Frozen Empire, to become the biggest Columbia Pictures movie of 2024. It needs another million to do that. Then you've got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. People are saying, why did Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes make just about the same amount of money this weekend as it did last weekend? Because it's paired with Inside Out 2 at drive-ins around the country. That's why. Drive-ins still have power. If you've never been to a drive-in, go! What are you waiting for? 5.2 million for a Kingdom of the Apes. It's at 157.8 for the 20th Century Division of Disney. Garfield, as I mentioned, did 5 million. The Watchers added 3.7 million. It's at 13.7 for Warner Brothers. Only dropped about 50%. Not terrible, but a film that's not making a lot of money. If, as I mentioned, 3.5 million in sixth. In seventh, Furiosa added 2.4. It's at 63.1 for Warner Brothers. They're going to bounce back, I think, with Horizon. I also think with Trap, the M. Night Shyamalan movie. They're going to bounce back a little bit rest of this summer. Maybe not as big as Wonka or Dune or Godzilla, but they'll bounce back from these missteps. In eighth, The Fall Guy added $1.5 million. It's at 87.9 for Universal. They'll try to get it to 90. Number 9 is The Strangers Chapter 1, which added 760,000. It's at 33.9 for Lionsgate. And rounding out your top 10 this weekend, as of this moment in time, is the second weekend of the re-release of the first Lord of the Rings movie, which added 633,000. It's at 3.1 million. Tuesday, a unique experience starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Lola Pettigrew only made 293,000 this weekend. Did not do so well for A24. It's a tough sell. I mean, I knew it when I saw it a couple weeks ago at the Berkshire International Film Festival. This movie was going to be a tough sell. Film about death with a talking macaw as death. That's tough. And so I think this is a movie people will explore on at-home viewing, but at least it's in some theaters. A film called Treasure made 244,000 this weekend. In a Violent Nature is up to 4 million for IFC. And we're waiting on the money for Firebrand with Jude Law and Alicia Vikander. I don't think it's going to make more than 633,000, but if it does, it will enter this weekend's top 10 list. This week is The Bike Riders, which I think could do pretty well. Maybe 10 million. That would be well for Focus Features. Focus hasn't had a movie hit 10 million total this entire year. Thelma is out. I have seen it. I will share my thoughts tomorrow. It is the new June Squibb comedy. I'll give you more details tomorrow. Screening in theaters nationwide on Wednesday is Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot. It's a film I like. It's got strong performances. It's an excellent emotional story, true story. A lot of power to the messages about trust and belief. That's from Angel Studios. It officially opens for 4th of July, but screenings nationwide on Wednesday. Celine Dion's new documentary called I Am Celine Dion is getting a theatrical play this coming weekend from Amazon ahead of it being on Prime Video next Tuesday, June 25. The Exorcism I have not seen yet. It's a new film with Russell Crowe. Yet another horror movie. Yet another horror movie with Russell Crowe, who was just in The Pope's Exorcist last year. But this one is about Hollywood and acting and making a horror movie. Kind of an homage to, you hear some of the stories about The Exorcist over the years. So that is out this week. Also in limited release, Janet Planet, which has some good buzz from A24, and Kinds of Kindness, the new Yorgos Lanthimos film with Emma Stone from Searchlight. Those are limited. They will expand nationwide beginning the next Friday, June 28th. The Tony Awards are tonight on CBS. We'll see how that is in the ratings, and we'll see how the show is overall. Ariana DeBose returns as host. Today is Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to everyone. And I've got a new LCJ Q&A podcast episode with the maker of Wandla. That's at lcj.podbean.com. Bob Sganaway. Great conversation with him. And a new one this week on Thursday with the makers of the new Disney Junior Ariel animated series. Look for that at lcj.podbean.com on Thursday, along with animationscoop.com. That premieres on Disney Channel and Disney Junior and Disney Plus June 27 and 28. I watched Monkey Man the other night on Peacock. Thought it was pretty good. Expectations were kind of low because the movie looked kind of generic to me from the previews, but there's a decent story. Yes, it's familiar beats, but it's a physically demanding performance from Dev Patel. The direction is decent. The fight scenes and the action scenes, that's what's really impressive in terms of visually and editing and what went into it. The one early on, especially, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. That's wild how long it goes on for. A few other sections a little too long when it comes to the story and some of the subplots, but overall solid. This is a decent film. I recommend Monkey Man. Watch it now on Peacock. And when you look at some of these animated films that have also had huge opening weekends, some people call that 2019 Lion King animated. I call it the whole motion capture realism. I don't necessarily put it in the same group. Yeah, that opened to 192. But you got Incredibles 2 with 183, and then this Inside Out opened tops Finding Dory's 135, and Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4 110, 120, top Mario, which did 146 and a 5-day of 200. Wow. The first Inside Out made 356.5 million total, was the fourth biggest movie of 2015. So this has got to be in the top 10 for the whole year. I'll be shocked if it isn't. Yeah, we've still got big movies on the way. Joker in October as well. And Moana 2, which I think could do exceptionally well. Same with Mufasa. Same with Sonic the Hedgehog 3, if that still comes out at the end of the year. I think for Disney, they're in a position now, with Inside Out 2 being in theaters for 100 days, where it'll do pretty well the rest of the way through. And then the powerhouse punch of Moana and Mufasa, November, December. I mean, when those previews played the other day at my showing of Inside Out 2, the audience was totally into both of them. Just, tapping along to the music and just excited for them. The smart move by Bob Iger pivoting the Moana animated series to be a feature, I think is going to pay off really well. Moana 2 is going to do so much more than Wicked. I saw Wicked the show 10 years ago-ish. I liked it, didn't love it. I think Wicked is not going to be a gigantic hit. It'll make a little money, but if you're talking about nationwide, the appeal is Moana. And I think Moana 2 is going to do really well over Thanksgiving. And then Mufasa at Christmas. Paramount maybe needs to be a little concerned about Sonic the Hedgehog 3 going up against Mufasa. I think some families will go to Sonic, but a lot of people will be like, wow, a new Lion King story? I got to see this. So I think Paramount should be a bit concerned and may want to move Sonic. We'll see what happens. Speaking of Lion King, by the way, for Disney, the original 1994 animated classic gets re-released in theaters starting July 12th for its 30th anniversary. That's just more money for Disney. Robbie, what do you make of AI films being screened at the Tribeca Film Festival? Yeah, by the way, before I get to that, thank you, Robbie. I screened Bratz the other night. It's the new Brat Pack documentary that played at Tribeca, and it's pretty good. It's pretty interesting. Andrew McCarthy basically goes around the country finding his old castmates and some other members and people just outside of the Brat Pack to talk to about this. And It's a quest movie to find these people. It's a reunion movie, and then it's a deep dive, almost like a therapy session, into the media and the 80s and stardom. So it's pretty interesting. So I screened that through Tribeca. Um, I think it's interesting that Tribeca is spotlighting AI as much as they are. Um, I think the reaction to it has been mixed, even giving out awards, I believe, specifically for AI. Um, I don't love that. But we'll see if that comes back next year if they decide to single AI out again. Not a huge fan of that kind of spotlight. Brat Pack movie seems very sweet. It's sweet, but it's raw, and it's kind of this eye-opening experience for Andrew McCarthy and Rob Lowe, and Demi Moore is in it, and Leah Thompson's in it, and Emilio Estevez. He got a lot of the members and people outside of it and directors, and you find out some interesting facts about the making of some of these movies. Yeah, I think it's sweet in parts, but it's also raw, and it's also gritty, and it gets more and more compelling as it goes on. The interviews get better. We get the man who came up with the Brat Pack phrase towards the end, and that's a juicy conversation. Chunga Wunga! Pixar is definitely very happy right now. I see Inside Out 3 happening, but not for a good few years, just like the Toy Story movies being spread out. Look at Kung Fu Panda 4. 8 years after the third one, it made almost 200 million total. Look at Inside Out 2, 9 years after the last one. Toy Story 4 came out 9 years after Toy Story 3. Finding Dory was 13 years. Incredibles 2 was almost 14 years. So yes, now Pixar went right in. Monsters University as well was 12 years. So all these gaps. There's probably a couple more that I'm missing. But Cars was, I'm wearing this today because of Pixar. Cars was interesting because Pixar went right away on a sequel and sort of right away on a threequel. They waited only 5 years for Cars 2 and then only 6 years for Cars 3. They didn't make as much as the first Cars. There's still a fan base for Cars. With the Cars on the Road show on Disney Plus, there still is. But the waiting a long period of time seems to be working. Now, Lightyear was only a few years after Toy Story 4, and we all know what happened with Lightyear. That was a little different. But the long-awaited sequel is clearly working. It worked for DreamWorks with Kung Fu Panda 4, and it's working with Pixar for Inside Out 2. When it comes to Despicable Me 4, it'll be 7 years since the last Despicable Me movie, but only 2 years since the last Minions movie, which also had Steve Carell. So we'll see how it does. It'll do really well, but will it match the Minions movie from 2 years ago? Will it match Despicable Me 3 from 7 years ago? We will find out. We'll be back next Sunday to talk about Bike Riders, box office, and more. We'll preview Quiet Place and Horizon and more. Very quickly, Robbie, I was a little dispirited by Pixar announcing they wanted to focus less on personal stories after the failure of Turning Red and Luca. We'll see what happens. I think they want money, so they're focusing maybe on sequels right now. Original content is still coming. Elio next summer. And that seems to be a very personal story for the makers involved. And we'll see how Elio is in June of 2025. Thanks for being here today on LCJ Live as always. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please like this video. Share it. Thank you. Twitter X at LCJ Reviews. Instagram at LightsCamJackson. And that website is lights-camera-jackson.com. Thanks for watching. Happy Father's Day. And thanks for being here for LCJ Live. Bye-bye.